basically, what brings us to this space is a discussion of a number of reports, 3 reports that we, as a Media Futures project, we've been working on for, let me say, the last several months. And we are glad that finally these reports are out, and we are ready to launch the report and basically have a discussion around this report. But before I say a lot, let me invite our communications manager, Caleb, to just give us a brief overview of this virtual space and how we are going to go about the discussion. Caleb.
Thank you, Hesbon. Hi, guys. Happy to have you with us. So today is a webinar session, and just give you some of the house rules. If first of all, we'll start off with the discussions, which Hesbon will lead. And then the discussions will basically give an overview of the research team will give an overview of what they've been doing, then just touch on the country reports. Then after that, there will be the discussion now for the panel session led by Dr. George Kaviki. And then from after the panel discussion, we'll have some Q&As. You can raise your hands, or you can alternatively just write your question in the chat box, and then we will get back to you. So other than that, I'm just here to tell you that we'll be having our East Festival next week, starting from the 13th to the 16th of October. And if you'd like to get an invite, you can leave your email address on the chat, the comment section, and then we'll be able to send you an invite. And also we'll post once again the link to the registration to the conference. Other than that, karibuni sana, and we hope to have a fruitful discussion. Back to you, Hesbon.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you for that brief overview. I think my role today is very simple, because there is a very competent team that will engage us on a discussion around these 3 reports from Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. So briefly, these reports are part of a wider project that we have as the Media Futures East Africa. So the Media Futures East Africa brings on board 2 institutions, Aga Khan University, the Graduate School of Media and Communication, and DWA Academy. And the major research that we're involved in right now is titled Innovation for Media Viability Research in East Africa. It's still ongoing. And essentially this is a qualitative, mixed method study, both quantitative and qualitative, that is looking at the media landscape in East Africa along, a number of independent and dependent variables like the business models, the innovation culture, the journalism culture, the organization culture, the business resilience capabilities of media outlets in East Africa, and very robust, things about the media in East Africa. We've already collected data in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. So we have a database, or a data set of data from close to 300 media outlets in these 3 regions. We are working on analyzing that data, but we are glad because we'll be churning out the products from these researching phases. And this is the first product that you're getting out. It was basically a desktop research that looked at the media landscape in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And that is what we want to discuss today. I would also want to point out that the reports were structured along the 5 indicators of the media viability indicators by DW Academy, our partners. And I'm glad Stefan is here. He'll give a brief remark on that. So we basically structured those reports along politics, economics, technology, community, and content. And they're very in-depth in terms of looking at the political situation in these countries and how the political situations impact on media viability, technology, economics, and community. And in our panel today, I know the moderator will introduce the panelists, but just allow me to introduce the moderator. The moderator for today's discussion is Dr. George Gadhigi, who was critically involved in both the conceptualization of these reports and the implementation, the data collection and the writing of the report. And he has an in-depth understanding of what these reports are all about. He has an in-depth understanding of the media landscape in East Africa. He's a university professor, very knowledgeable and experienced in development communication, a journalism trainer, and we are glad that he is with us here today to moderate this session. So before I hand over to George Gadigi, I will invite Stefan from DWA, that is DW Academy. Stefan is the lead consultant in our project. So he gives us that overarching, expert direction on everything that you're doing. Widely experienced, he has worked almost in all continents in this world. Stefan is one expert you can wake up in the middle of the night and he'll still talk about the media viability, innovation. And we are happy that he's here to represent DW Academy and our team leads, that is Julia Gering and Dr. Njoki Chege. Stefan, over to you.
Thank you, Hesben, for this warm welcome. Actually, I'm dreaming a lot of this project. Yeah, welcome to everybody, and I want to welcome you also on behalf of Deutsche Welle Academy. And first of all, I want to say thank you to the research team for this exceptional work. And I can't stress out enough the importance of having this kind of data for our projects, because as has been said, I mean, what we do at Deutsche Welle Academy, a core part of our strategy is media viability and strengthen media viability. We also have other fields of action. As you might have heard, we work a lot on media information literacy as well. But now with COVID, what we have seen that this concept of media viability is more important than ever before. And I think conferences, you might think, oh, the latest trends, we just have to follow the latest trend to solve our problems. And this is, I think, what doesn't really work. We really need to have a kind of holistic approach to the media ecosystem. And it's very complex. And as it's so complex, we developed this 5 dimension of media viability, because we think you have to consider all of them to strengthen media. In quality media especially. So it's not enough, we always say it's more than money media viability. It's not enough just to consider and to invent new business models. Of course, this is important, but you also have to, for example, to look at the political and economic environment. And I think I'm really interested in what you're saying about the political environment in East Africa, because we think it's very important. How does media regulation, what is the influence on innovators? What is the influence on media outlets? Where are we heading? Because now we have also the big tech companies, Google, Facebook. So what is the future for the media ecosystem in East Africa? And I think the reports give us some very interesting insights into this. But of course, there are other dimensions like content. We are talking all the time about mis and disinformation and how this influences all the content around in the public sphere. And I think never before quality media have had such an important role for a constructive dialogue in the society. So this is also a very important dimension, as it is as well as community. We have also the dimension of community, and where we look as well as how our journalists are educated and what new ways do we need to go there. And of course, the last dimension, the technology, I mean, this is something I already mentioned. This is so important if we live in an ecosystem steered by algorithms and also new tech devices that gives the possibility to everyone to be to distribute content, and we need to analyze what kind of influence does this technology have. So this in general is our media viability model, and now I love to listen to the experts, what insights they have had doing this extensive research. So thank you for that at the moment.
Thank you, Stefan. I think without taking too much of our time, we probably just need to dig deep into the discussion. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. George Gadigi, who I've already introduced. George will introduce our competent panel that is made up of a Kenyan, of course, 2 Kenyans, a Ugandan, let me say a veteran Ugandan journalist in the media, entrepreneur, and finally we have a Tanzanian journalist who we are fairly pleased to have in this discussion. Dr. Gadigi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Esbon. Is my video on?
Yes, your video is on.
Oh, for some reason it's showing blank on my side. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for those who are on the other side. And glad to be here. And
maybe you just need your head is chopped off. You may need to tilt it backwards. Yes, yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, okay.
Okay, now I have a full head. Again, good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are joining us. And this afternoon or morning from your side, I'm happy to introduce our panelists for this discussion, where we will be going through the media viability study. And in our panel, we will have Susan Karago, who is a media manager and also a board member, MCK, that is Media Council of Kenya. Susan has a long experience in media. She's an exemplary media expert with key strengths in radio broadcasting. She's lectured in broadcasting journalism as well as strategic communication solutions. Currently, she's the Deputy Chief Executive Officer at Baraka FM, which broadcasts across 6 counties in the coastal region of Kenya. And she's also a member of several professional bodies, including Kenya Editors Guild, Media Council of Kenya, and Association of Media Women in Kenya, that is AMWIC. And all these seek to uphold high international professional standards in journalism in Kenya. She's been working for the last 12 years, worked as political, court, parliamentary, and business reporter. And also she's an energetic, charismatic, and honest and insightful journalist. We don't take that for granted, and has risen from a position of reporter from Kenya News Bureau Chief to then managing editor, where she is up to date. So I take this opportunity to welcome Susan Karago. Karibu. Our second panelist, William Peshut, William Mutende Peshut. He is the deputy head of radio and also head of content at Mayan FM. He has 10 years experience in broadcasting and currently works as the breakfast show presenter at Media Max language radio station, that is Mayan FM. He also covers different counties where Mai is spoken, including Kajiado, Narok, Samburu, and Laikipia. And just to stress, these are very important counties because they face different realities compared to other parts of the country. He's currently a final year student pursuing a Master's of Art degree in Communication Studies at the University of Nairobi, specializing in development communication. He holds a degree in political science from the University of Nairobi and diploma in journalism and mass communication from East Africa School of Media Studies. Previously, he worked at Royal Media Services and also at KBC, that is the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, as a radio presenter in the Maasai radio station, that is North Sim FM. I am also glad to say William Peshut is also my student. Karibu sana. Bajenzire Atuhaire, I hope I'm saying, I'm not butchering your name, but I will also take you to the side to get the right pronunciation. Atuhaire is a veteran Ugandan journalist with over 20 years experience of reporting and editing. And he currently serves on the executive board of the Uganda Editors Guild as the treasurer. So he deals with the money there. As an interim executive committee member of Uganda Media Sector Working Group, he is pursuing executive master's degree in media leadership and innovation at the Aga Khan Graduate School of Media and Communication. His areas of specializations include politics and investigation. He's also experienced in the coverage of sports, business, education, elections, and war, where he has reported extensively. Currently, he runs Kampala-based online publisher, PML Daily, which you can find online at www.pmldaily.com as editorial director. Previously, he has worked with Nation Media Group in Uganda and left in 2016 as associate editor news for Daily Monitor newspaper in Uganda. Karibu sana Atuhaire. Susan Kitomari, representing our other end, Tanzania. Sorry, Salome Kitomari, my bad. Salome Kitomari is a Tanzanian journalist who has won more than 10 journalism awards in different categories in Tanzania, and in 2018, overall winner of Tanzania prestigious journalism award, that is Excellence in Journalism Award in Tanzania, EJAT. Currently, she is the chairperson of the Media Institute of Southern Africa, Tanzanian chapter, that is MISA, and also MISA Regional Treasurer, that stands for Freedom of Expression and Right to Information. She's a member of DIRAJ, and DIRAJ is an association of journalists and communicators working in the field of disaster risk reduction, that is DRR. She's a member of Tanzania Media Women Association, TEMA, and Journalist Environment Association of Tanzania, JET. Her areas of coverage in journalism have included constitution, national assemblies in Tanzania and general election, and also has attended a number of courses, including media management, implemented by the World Association of Newspaper and News Publishers. She has also done investigative and multimedia journalism training, as well as 6-month training program of reporting on oil and gas mining conducted by Natural Resource and Government Institute, RGI, and also media management and advocacy fellow under the European Union. Karibu sana, Salome Kitomari. And I think from the introduction, I like the fact that we have all indicated our area of interest, because those details are very important in terms of the conversation that we are going to have. They also lend themselves to the different dimensions of media viability. I want to now move to the panelists and probably take it the other way around. I started by introducing Susan and William. I want to start this conversation by going to Salome Kitomari. And Salome, you can tell us what are the main takeaways that you have been able to get from this report, and you can also talk to areas that are, specifically important to you. Salome. Salome, unaweza kunisikia? I can see Salome. is not under the panelist tab, so probably we can move her there. But as we wait for her, I want to invite Alex to speak to this study and what speaks to him most and what he's been able to take away. Alex.
Thank you, Dr. Gathigi, and a very good afternoon to everybody on these spaces. I am absolutely happy to be here. Going direct into the subject matter, I am particularly delighted that we are able to see research in an important area like media viability taking the forefront, because the media in the region, in Uganda, the region and everywhere, is in a stage of adaptation. We have been, I hope you can hear me, right? Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well. Yes.
Thank you. So the media is in a stage of what we have always referred to in the newsrooms as digital disruption, but what I want to call digital adaptation. And speaking directly, this report on media viability is a very, very important conversation for me. With my background coming from a background of having operated for a long time in the legacy media spaces. Now, coming specifically to Uganda and speaking to this report, I think the report picks out the background context and the placement of the Ugandan media industry very, very accurately. Maybe what I may need to add is that that the structure of the Ugandan media industry is anchored historically and for a long time, the vibrancy of the legacy media platforms, which then historically have set the agenda, and in my view, continue to set the agenda. And then, of course, these are dominated by some of the major media players, including the Vision Group and the Nation Media Group, and also some other major players like the public broadcaster, the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. And then, of course, a multiplicity of other broadcasters. It is true that radio, because of the structure of the Ugandan community, continues to be very, very helpful in providing access, especially to the rural communities, to media platforms. I was looking at a recent survey of media use by Twaweza East Africa. This survey was released about 2 weeks ago, and it shows that most of the Ugandan media users, 75%, rely on radio platforms. Now, in terms of the structure also of the Ugandan media, there is a mushrooming cadre of online news media platforms aided by the digital tools, but most of them really are not professional structured, which is a cause for concern. And then very quickly, when you look at the regulatory frameworks, the political, economy, and environment, I wish to note that there has been long-standing challenge to the profession of journalism in Uganda, such as the laws, the operating laws, leave alone the media laws, but there are some other laws like the Computer Misuse Act and the Anti-Terrorism Act, which restrict the practice of journalism. And then there is violence against journalists, which raises an issue of the security and welfare of journalists. and an increasing trend of commercial pressure on decision making. The regulatory framework in Uganda is state 100%. I hope you the report captures that. And the Uganda Communications Commission is basically in the regulatory area, but of course we have the Uganda Media Council also, which regulates the practice of journalism, but though it's a contested body, but has been there operating and not exactly trusted across the industry. So the digital disruption of the media industry, in which audiences and advertising revenues have migrated online and mobile platforms, as well as technology giants and the emergence of the rest, the technology giants, the underlying business models for most of the major legacy media platforms has been really tested and challenged, like it is happening world over. So I guess the context of this media viability report, then in view of the Uganda's media industry, is how will the industry that is anchored on the vibrance of the legacy media platforms, which have historically set the agenda, how will they then adapt to the digitalization of the industry? That would be my opening observations in view of the findings of this report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Alex, for bringing us, that very well thought, ideas on what is happening in Uganda as well, of course, as what this report speaks to. And I think Salome is back with us. Salome, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I want to give you this opportunity to speak to us about your takeaways about this report on either of the dimension, the 5 dimension, and also probably talk about what speaks to you most as a media practitioner. Karibu Salome.
Thank you, George. This report is a mirror in which the media industry will see itself to determine how the situation is on the ground. The report touched all the important areas and shows how Tanzanian media today behave the way it does. Also how the situation is in our neighboring country like Uganda and Kenya. The interesting part in this report for me as a practitioner is a multiple condition in news industry which affect the quality of the content. Why? The lack of skilled journalists. Why are we lacking this profession? The report has been pointed out the major problem behind poor quality media content in Tanzania. The reason is a lack of skills, is true, because right now, most of the radio, especially the popular radio stations, they much prefer using celebrities and artists. And the quality is, the criteria is their voices and their popularity in the community. So they lack their professionalism. And the issue of poor academic qualification is true. That is one of the major challenges in our country right now. And the issue of low payment to the journalists, especially correspondents who in a very little money, going months without payment. Another reason is a lack of experienced journalists in our newsroom right now. number of journalists, the veteran journalists, they are doing other things. They are not in the newsroom right now. Why? Because of low payment. The employers, they much prefer the new blood because they will pay them lower compared to their veteran one. And we have the issue of in-house training. Most of our media houses in Tanzania, they don't have in-house training. The owners, they are not much invested in training their workers. Instead, they're in investing much on the business, getting money from that business. Another area is digital media. Citizen journalism vis-a-vis professional journalism. Right now, we have the problem of, I can touch it as a problem because the citizen journalism is rising up. So we as a journalist, we need to go deep to verify information. We are not doing like those who are just posting everything. So the rate of misinformation is grown in our country. So the audience, sometimes they much prefer getting information from social media instead of getting information from traditional media like radio, TV, and newspapers. This reflects the declining of level of confidence in media, especially opposition party and their supporters. For instance, currently we had a opposition leader case. Their supporters, they were just live from their court. They are posting every word that is from the court. At the media, we can't do that. We have to get the information that we think this is information is well packed and it has all the professional character to be aired or to be published. So the traditional media has been accused of being slow in investigative reporting due to the self-censorship, editorial independence. And this is very true because it depends with the political regime. For instance, we passed through 6 years, solid 6 years of high self-censorship in a media because of the political regime. But right now, at least we are breathing and things has changed. Another issue that the report touched is the issue of single sourcing, zero sourcing, we as a journalist, we have a work to do to make sure that we get a lot of sources, more than 8 sources in our stories. And the most part is the issue of gender gaps. Women are not well captured in our newsroom. And this is a problem because of the culture and traditional. Women feel shy to speak in the media, speaking in the television or radio to be interviewed. And when you come to the media practitioner or in our newsroom, the situation how it is, still the newsroom are men's world. Though we have a number of women who has all criteria to be to lead the media house. Another issue which is very interesting to me also is media ownership. The report touched that the owner of the media are individual, private company, government, and politician. But I could go far and identify who are the individuals. Most of them are politicians and business people who own media with their own interest. For instance, the politicians, they use media to amplify their voices, especially during campaign, during election. And their business people, they own media for purpose of doing business because they want to protect their interest. And also, we have the problem of also the interfering of editorial content by owners in it is very common, as the report shows. There are still a debate on whether the media is a service or business. But if you ask me as a practitioner, the simple answer that it's a business because I think the media owners, they don't think of more professionalism. They think of more business. That's why the more effort is in administration issues compared to the newsroom. There is a big breach between the newsrooms and administration. Also, the report recommended the mechanism to ensure owners use their media outlets for the purpose of stipulate in their editorial policy. The question is to ask ourselves, does the owner mind based on professionalism, as I spoke earlier? Most of them, they put more effort on the business. The issue also of business structure, lack of sustainability business model. Why this? Because nature of ownership. For example, politicians, they are starting the media because they want to get something. They want to win the popularity. They want to get voters. They want to get supporters. So the main aim of their business, it depends. It differs from one owner to another. Another issue is the cheap labor. The report touched about some media houses, especially community owners, hire staff who don't have any expertise. Example, HR, human resource managers, and the other managers and editors. This is the reason of financial barrier, but the main reason they want these cheap people, cheap labor, who will not question, who will not criticize, who will not ask about what is going on within a station or a newspaper. So from the report, I have some recommendation that I pointed out. The number one is professional solidarity. This is very important. This is crucial to us as a professional. We have to come together as a professional, speak out, make sure that some of things like cheap labor, low payment, we address it clearly. Also, we should recognize the work done by professional associations that advocate for journalist rights and safety have played an important role in professionalism relation between the government and media. This role should be documented, should be well known. And number three, the issue of well-being of journalists, issue of salaries, insurance, and employment of journalists is a critical factor in new media viability. We should address it clearly. Number three, also about how advertise influence editorial decision. Sometimes you can have a good story, but the person or the company is a big advertiser to your media outlet. How do you run this story? So you can see how the advertisers influence the editorial decisions. And the last one is the outcome of COVID-19 should be included, because number of people were retrenched from the media houses, and we have the number of editors, the number of journalists who they are out of newsroom. And what does this report mean to me as a media practitioner? This report shows that we still have the gap. We still have the long way to go. And we have to pull up our socks and strengthen our solidarity as practitioners. By saying that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Salome, for that insightful rundown on the different dimensions and bringing that, into the reality of what is happening in Tanzania today. And also, positioning yourself as a media practitioner and also raising a number of pertinent questions that I hope we will be in a position to discuss in our discussion segment. Quite a lot. I don't want to rehash what you've said, but we'll come back to a number of those points. At this moment, I want to welcome William Peshut to bring us his insights that he has gathered from this report. And I think interestingly, maybe speak from, especially as someone who is in a space, one of the, I would say, smallest media market, and also speaking to a population that is largely on the margins with very unique challenges. Looking forward to hearing from you, Peshut. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Mwalimu. I think, am I audible enough? The reason why my video is off, I am actually communicating from, this found me on the ground. I was in a field assignment. And so I just had to park somewhere and try and join. It is a bit dusty here, so that is why all the windows are locked. It is a bit hot here, but nevertheless, I hope the point will still get home. Now, once again, thank you, Dr. Gathigi, for the opportunity, together with very good introductory remarks, and together with my fellow panelists and other people here, other professionals who made this happen. Thank you very much. Now, this report has came about actually at the best opportunity or the right time, because it has brought to the fore. It is a mirror of exactly what is happening. And even before I go into details, I'll just say it truly reflects on what is happening, particularly in the Kenyan market, because that is where I have some bit of knowledge about, and especially in a media that is vernacular media that is bordering community media, because the things the report has brought to the fore, I will dare say without any fear of contradiction that they are a true reflection of what is happening. For me, I am much interested, or I will be much more biased on the issue of content, as well as political and the community, as well as technology. Why do I pick that? First, on content, because it brings to the fore what we have just, what the report discusses as a quality content. And in the report, they said that, or they described the quality content as to whether the news media in a country are providing audiences with accurate and timely information about important, relevant. That word was very key to me, relevant events in issues at the national, international, and local levels. So let me begin with the content, the issue of content. To begin with, the quality of content. And I will dare say the report has rightly brought into fore what is happening in the industry. Why? Because the quality, it will be important if I state that in Kenya, there is no shortage of properly trained journalism. We have very good institutions that offer training that has been able to produce some of the best journalists around. So the issue of training, it is there, but we have sacrificed trained journalists because of what I think our colleague from Tanzania had already raised, because of untrained labor, but who makes up their lack of training with the popularity. Because the quality of the news we are giving or we are churning out has been influenced or has been diluted by lack of training. What brings about this lack of training? It is the demand that media houses are running after profits and numbers over the quality of content. What do I mean? In the Kenyan industry, it is no longer about what is the quality of the content you are producing, but on what is the quantity. What numbers do you have? What is your reach? How many people are you reaching? At some point, we were made to sign a contract or something like a commitment to show that every month I'll be reaching this number of people. So when you have that kind of pressure, what happens? You will it can easily be said that the quality that you churn out will be affected by your need to get the quantity of numbers required. I will give a case in point. When TikTok came about, there was an individual who was very popular because of the kind of videos she made on TikTok, because of the kind of dancing style she had. So she had a mass following. She suddenly was the talk of town because of the numbers that she had. So because of that, and because the media industry is now about numbers, a certain media house in the country recruited her to be a radio host so that she can transfer the numbers in TikTok to radio, without putting into consideration the structures of TikTok and radio, because radio is about voice and the material that it is broadcasting, while TikTok, on the other hand, is mostly made popular through videos and all that. So the individual was given work as a radio presenter, and she was given a very prominent show, a breakfast show, because they wanted her to bring the numbers she had on TikTok on air. So you will find that most of the time, the individual will have to, as she was, initially when she came, she thought it will be automatic that the numbers she had on TikTok will be transmitted to, it will reflect on the numbers on air or on radio. But later on, they realized that maybe the two modes of communication were incompatible. So she now started doing video lives through social media as she does the show, trying to do the video antics that she used to do. And so you will realize that most of the time, there is no quality content that is being aired. What is happening is that she's just dancing and that is it, nothing more. So the report amply brings out that when they talked of the quality of the content under the indicator of content. Another thing that I will wish to bring up on the fore is the issue of journalism expertise. Now, the Kenyan market is full of well-trained journalists, but what has happened is the emergence of new media. For instance, a vernacular station, community stations. So you will find that there are other competencies that are being looked or sought, being sought of the issue of training. For instance, in the issue of community radio stations or vernacular radio stations, the number one key competency that is being sought is the fluency in the language, in which the radio is broadcasting. So if, for instance, someone is very good in Maasai or in Ma or in Kikuyu, you will find that person is getting an opportunity over someone who is well-trained, but maybe their Maasai proficiency or Kikuyu or other language is a bit shaky. And so at some point we had an influx of people without training, like for instance, pastors who are hosting shows on radio, We had comedians who basically do not have any. I know of a radio station whose lead comedian is a standard 6 dropout, but simply because it is a vernacular radio station, and now he speaks the language fluently, he is given an opportunity. So what happens? The quality that person, the quality of content that person produces, then it is questionable. But because that is, the issue is numbers, profits of quality, then the guy is now taken in and he's on air. The other thing is the ownership in news organization. This is very key. Why? Because most of the vernacular stations are privately owned, save for those that are under the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, that is a state corporation. The other ones are owned by individuals, where business comes first, then anything else comes second. I have witnessed a situation where the owner of a station dictates on the kind of content to be aired and not to be aired. That despite the fact that you might be interested in airing a content or programs that you think are relevant to the people listening to that station. But because it is privately owned, the person owning it is at pleasure to decide what you do. And at some point, you find memos instructing you on what to do, what to broadcast, who to host, who not to host. So those are some of the things that the report has really, really brought forward. And I feel they properly did their research on the same. The issue of ownership also influences on who is hired. For instance, a station that is broadcasting in Masai being managed by a relative of the person, of the owner of the station. So that person lacks the background understanding of the community issues and about the lifestyle or about the profile of that community. And that is likely to affect on the kind of quality, on the quality of content that you are going to share, because you will be speaking things that are determined by an authority that lacks sufficient knowledge about the community in which you expect to communicate to. Another thing is the issue of the business structure of an organization. And here comes in the issue of sustainability. This report was very right in pointing out that in most of these, we have particularly, and I'll still go back to community and vernacular stations. In 2017, a case happened where a radio station was shut down in a day. The people managing the organization owning that station did not do a prior communication about the same. So a phone call was made and the team were directed to assemble. And by 3 p.m., the HR director flew into where the station was based, called in the staff to a meeting, and they were told today was the final day this station was on air. We are changing the structure of our business. And I think the way we are operating in this station, radio station, it is no longer sustainable for us. And that was it for a radio station. Can you imagine what happened to the people who were relying on that radio station for transmission of information and communication and all that? That was abrupt. So the report is very clear. This report really, really delves on what is happening. The other thing is business expertise. and which is closely related to what I have just said. So in a nutshell, the report really brought in the clear picture of what is happening on the ground. Maybe just to go back on something that I had talked about on journalism expertise, the lack of in-house training. Most of the training is being organized by the Media Council of Kenya, who are really doing a good job. Particularly the other day, they were doing a training on mental health reporting. Save for the trainings that are organized by the Media Council of Kenya, there is no, okay, thank you, Willa. There is no in-house training that is happening in most of these houses. The issue of remuneration, I think that is one of the issues that is really affecting the media industry in Kenya, poor remuneration. And that is why we have issues of the brown envelope. And so to summarize, what do we need to do? Proper recruitment of competent staff or trainees or expertise. The other thing is stricter regulation. For instance, we have the issue, the regulations that were issued by the Betting Control and Licensing Board. Some of the media stations in the country are still violating that. And those are the things that are affecting the quality of what we are airing. And finally, the threshold that should be met for one to be registered as a media house, a media owner in Kenya, the threshold needs to be high so that it is much more based on institutions that can easily be regulated, as opposed to individuals who sometime back a radio station changed hands within a week and the staff were transferred to another owner within the same week. So I hope we'll still get an opportunity to highlight, but the report really highlighted. If I get an opportunity some other time, we will go, I'll talk something about the community and political indicators. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, William, for again another in-depth response to the report, and also bringing out those very practical examples. I see the question of professionalism keep coming up, the influence of the ownership, and I think interesting point that has come up is the nexus between the digital and traditional media, that again is a reality in our media industry, both in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. I want to now invite Susan. Susan Karago, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to start with page 7, there's something that caught my eye. And that was on, I think, regulation. Let me just refer to it directly. So the sentence was, however, both the KICA Amendments Act 2013 and MCK Act 2013 give more powers to the government in the regulation of the industry. This really caught my eye because especially being a board member at Media Council of Kenya, that would mean that we have a lot to do if the government is the one that is really regulating, because one of the mandates of the Media Council of Kenya is oversight of government. So if the government is really having the upper hand, it means that, there's some work to be done. And I was very appreciative of that. And I think it's something that I'll share with the rest of the board. Then just going to the other aspects, maybe I'd like to start with advertisement. The reality, okay, being in radio, I've been managing radio for like a decade. And one of the things that really stand out is that whenever there's a crisis, the first thing that industries do and the first expenditure that industries address, or the first cost cutting measure that industries take is cutting advertisement spends. Now, it was interesting to note that in 2019, 2020, the advertisement spends actually went up when it was a time when just COVID was really coming in, and it caught many media houses unawares. And the first thing, again, that I would have expected that time is probably the spends to go down, but realizing that this actually pushed the spends from, I think, 1 billion to 1.5, that was quite eye-opening. And just realizing that, you know, probably media houses and the pitches they do could actually move into the sustainability of media houses, you know, not just assuming that, you know, these are tough times, people have cut their costs. They're actually probably companies that are willing to spend during crisis. So it's one thing that media houses need to do is, and advertising departments especially, is just identify probably the main or the type of industries that would want to spend during such times. Then also that in the report, it also indicated that the highest form of income is from private sector as opposed to government. This was quite shocking because I think, I don't know whether it's because the media house I come from is regional, but it has our 2080 in terms of income, our 80% income has always been from government, not from private sector. So this was also an eye-opener in terms of opportunities for media houses that, you know, direct clients also can bridge this gap. And now, especially with the introduction of the GAA, which is quite controversial in itself, the industry will have a lot to say about it, whether they support it, whether they don't. But the initial purpose of GAA was to centralize the spending of government and just ensuring that there's a easier way of control, because initially each government parastatal would do their own spends, their own requests from Treasury and all that. But initially, you'd find that the top 4 media houses are the ones who are gaining most in terms of government spends. Now, the Media Council intervened, and especially last year and part of this year, in quite a way where we were trying to bring smaller stations, community radio stations, religious media stations together so that they can pitch and get government advertising. Because you'd find that small media houses were totally missing out on this spend, and it's quite a big spend, where you find even one media house getting like 100,000 per week, 100 million a week, and it was happening, you know. But now with the intervention, with the sensitization of the smaller media houses of how to tender, how to get advertisements, ensuring that their taxes, they are compliant, you know, there's so many things that were not right also at the same time with the smaller media stations, where I'm sure, you know, in terms of some of them even switch off the radio stations, for example, when there are no advertisements, they switch off, as in the radio station does not exist. Then when they get a client, they switch on the radio station, they come on air, either breakfast for the breakfast show or the drive. Then after that campaign is over, the station is not on air. You know, such things which are quite unprofessional. Of course, that also comes in together with remuneration, which has been quite a problem and quite sad in terms of some stations are doing 6 months, 1 year without paying the journalists a dime, you know, which also ties in with the retrenchment and you know, just termination of highly skilled journalists because of their salary scales being very high. Unfortunately, that directly impacts on the quality of journalism in terms of content, which is it's also sad. And I wish we'd merge quality and the willingness to spend. I wish media houses would get to a point where they're willing to spend because they appreciate the importance of quality journalism. I think that's on advertising. There's also a finding in the decline in confidence levels in the media, which was, for me, quite disturbing, but understandable in that, in terms of what I just said, in terms of the journalists that we are having on board. Now, if citizens cannot trust the journalists or information that is coming to them, and it comes to them by the hour, that's by radio and daily, via newspapers, probably every 4 hours in TV, it means that our role as a media to inform and educate is really watered down, which is very, very unfortunate for the public at large. So in terms of working on the confidence levels, I think is something that we need to really, as a whole, it's something that the industry would really need to address and not take lightly. Politics and Kenya media, I don't know how we'll ever be able to separate the two. Now, there's a particular media house where the media owner was a breakfast presenter, was a news editor, would also, of course, dictate who comes on air and the topics to be discussed in terms of content. And you'd find that it's almost like an avenue where politicians can actually just pour out what they want, what is personal, what is close to their heart or their selfish interests, you know, and then giving very biased information to the listeners who will just take in all that content, knowing that, you know, it's from the media, it's credible, it's reliable. So this brings out a lot of misinformation, disinformation, a lot of propaganda is given avenues to actually prosper. There's one area that has around 18 radio stations concentrated, and you'll find that half of them belong to politicians, you know. And so it really deprives the audience in getting quality information that can help them in making very wise political decisions and even just education in terms of understanding various topics. Yes, I get the what can I say, the heads up from George. Maybe just one more point. I will just go to consumption patterns of, that's the data in terms of TV and radio. I was shocked, first of all, that, okay, not shocked, but it was interesting to find out that radio, because that's where I have my focus on, seeing that radio as a medium has lost its audience to TV, and is now almost at par. That is quite interesting and calls for a lot in terms of content production for radio, because now these two medium, you're competing with another medium that has the visual aspect over the audio aspect. So it really then means that radio stations have a lot to do to regain the audiences that they've lost. Probably it has something to do with the working from home, because most people probably were listening to radio as they were when they were traveling to their workplace and all that, and now they are having to work from home, so probably that had an impact. But still, in terms of the content production of radio, it just means that more creative ways, embracing technology, maybe increasing podcasts would actually also just address that. Send something in the chat, let me just say that. Okay. I don't know if I'll stop there, George, for now, or if I get another opportunity, then I'll speak into the other 2 points that I've not addressed yet. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Susan, for, again, very deep insights. And as we move on with this discussion, actually a lot is emerging, and I can see we could have as well spent 4 hours, having these conversations. I hope we get another opportunity to even go deeper. We're running out of time, but we have a few things that we would want to do. And I think the first one is to do a quick Q&A. And I think before we go to other participants or panelists who might have any questions, someone has posted a question on, they're wondering whether what is the actual use of reports like this in media houses, and especially since they are all struggling, or is it a case of unused knowledge? I think I would like to preface this by saying this is a new report, and it's still in the dissemination phase. But I wanted to throw a question to Susan and see, given that the Media Council, of course, is, and anyone else, and I know you are also on the Editors Guild, and you also understand other professional organizations. How can we disseminate these findings? I think that would be the first question to media outlets, and not just to outlets, but also to the different people within media outlets. We know management, editorial, and the frontline workers, of course, are different. Is there an opportunity to do this? Susan again.
Okay, thank you. I think this findings would be very important to the professional bodies, and most of them, all the way from Media Council, you'll find that trainings, especially by the Media Councils, Media Council of Kenya, are almost like a daily affair. So this is shared. It would really help. I happen to sit in the training and development committee, which is in charge of now entire training that the Media Council does. And what such findings would help in is that it would be broken down to different type of trainings, specifically what is journalist related would call for journalists training, what is management related would call for editors training, would also do probably a sitting with the Media Owners Association, who are also part of the stakeholders. So first of all, you sharing it with us would really be the first step. Then now it will be broken down to the different segments. I believe the Editors Guild the same, because we also have the same trainings. So just finding sponsors, for example, for such trainings, or just using the relevant, the different websites that are there for the particular professional bodies. Their websites are also a good source where members can actually access this info. Over and above that, I think it's even you probably posting them on your own website, and then driving traffic there in terms of probably just sharing links with us on social media, and that will also bring traffic and exposure to the content, which is very, very useful.
Thank you so much, Susan. And I think that raises the whole question of, how we can take this conversation. I have to say, personally, I used the reports in one of my classes, my graduate classes, and the reception was amazing. Special topics in communication and media, and I think we do have some work in front of us to see how we can bring these conversations. I want to entertain maybe 2 questions before I get back to the panelists to give us the closing remarks. Questions or comments from the participants, please.
Sorry.
Access the chat, the question and answer. There's one question there.
Yes, we have answered that question. It's what Susan just responded to. Thank you. Any comment or question?
Maybe, Chair, if I may just say something. If I may add something on the question that was there, probably whether media houses actually use these reports. I think finances is a genuine concern in terms of addressing them, because sometimes it calls for addressing entire business models. It calls for probably investing in technology. It calls for quality of journalists again, and probably they're looking at cutting down the payroll. So I think, yes, they could get the information, but addressing it, finances could be one of the limiting factors that has been a problem.
Hello, George.
Yes.
Yes, can I add some comments to my previous? Yes. Yeah, thank you. I realized I didn't use my time very well. I thought I would be called again to add some comments on the report. But let me just use 1 or 2 minutes, just 2 minutes to say this. Speaking directly to the Ugandan media industry, I think the report is very looks at the issues that are currently challenging the industry. I would say, having introduced the background to where the industry is at, I would say the industry is currently, the media is currently suffering a crisis of confidence in terms of relevance, in that news media organizations are increasingly detached from the users because they do not adequately represent voices or cover issues of interest to the users. And then there is an obvious evidence of lack of enough local or community content on the media platforms that users then do not identify with. And number two, there is the issue of quantity versus quality. The report, of course, tracks the significant growth of media platforms, particularly in terms of the multiplicity of the platforms over the last 2 or so decades. But this has not necessarily translated much as the diversity and quality of the voices and content on the platforms. Then there's an issue when it comes to media ownership. I think there is an obvious issue of media capture and commercialization, whereby the media has been captured by individuals and entities whose primary motivations are to advance commercial and political interests. These include media owners, advertisers, politicians, business people, and sponsors of all kinds of content on the media platforms, and normally pandering to the interests of advertisers or politicians. A case in point is the ownership structure of most of the institutions in the broadcast platforms, especially the radios, owned by politicians, and then politicians specifically that have allied to the ruling party in Uganda. Then there's no credible self-regulation mechanism. The legacy media platforms have done very well in having editorial codes, but most of the media remain largely unaccountable to the audiences, especially those operating online and the radio stations. And this has adequately undermined the public trust in the media, as ethics and editorial policies are not adhered to. Yet they are critical tools for media accountability. And I think media accountability is going to be critical when you talk about the viability of the media. So besides the existing regulatory frameworks, has limitations due to changes in media technology and the information environment, and the absence of relevant structures and political will to support it. It is true that the players in the political environment of Uganda have no history of acting in good faith when it comes to media, and we have no confidence that they are interested in developing structures that offer solutions to media viability. So that's a very, very big challenge for the Ugandan media. Now, media access and the cost of information. Many media users or consumers are disadvantaged by the cost of technology and access to platforms, availability of infrastructure, and because of economic and social disparities across the country. I've seen in the economic chapters of the report, the purchasing power parity of the Ugandan population is the lowest in the region. So this mixed with the fact that access has been hampered by some of the tax policies, for example, the current tax that somebody has to pay to load data, this has made access to media platforms very, very difficult for consumers or users. And it is a very, very big issue when it comes to the viability of the media platforms. in the country. Those are the two issues that I had left out in my introductory remarks that speaks directly to this report. Thank you. I hope I'll have an opportunity to do it.
Hello, George.
Yes.
I will also want to comment on the first question that Susan replied. I would like to comment that we need the national forums. For instance, in Tanzania, we need a national forum to discuss this report as a media practitioner. So this is a work that to be done by the media organization to use this report as a tool to make sure that we are discussing these issues and having a way forward on how to tackle these issues. Also, as you spoke on how you use the report on universities, also here in Tanzania, it's very important. I don't know what to do, but I think this report should be disseminated also to the universities and the colleges as a tool to lecture the student, the upcoming journalists, and also to share it in every news media house. I know in Tanzania media house, they don't have the research department. So having this report, I think will help you to know, it's like I said earlier, it's a mirror to see what is going on in our media houses. So it's very important to share from grassroots to high level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salome.
Yes.
I should just a second. Because we are out of time, I want to use the next 7 minutes. We will have overshot our meeting by 15 minutes, but I want to use the next 7 minutes to just get the final remarks from the panelists and perhaps also just Alex to briefly maybe mention how you think we can disseminate this. And then we will be closing. I know there's just so much that we can cover. I'm also seeing a question on what comes to the question of the steps that we are taking from policy point of view in terms of protecting the media houses, especially where the tech giants are, in quotes, eating the media lunch or the media's lunch. And how can policy regulation help to protect, especially the local media in East Africa? This is perhaps this report can help in kickstarting that conversation. And then just to say that there are quite a number of conversations that are emerging that I feel moving forward we can have. Questions of quality versus quantity as a reality. Someone asked, do media owners really care about professionalism, which has, again, come all over? How do we build on journalist capacity? The question that is always there. Yes, we do have capacity building, but how are they organized? What is a place of a trained journalist? And more importantly, a veteran journalist. I was tweeting yesterday and picking on one media house, which has always given the veterans the space, and also with other media stations. And then I think there is even a space to tell all these tales of things that happens in media houses that we never thought happened. So without further ado, let me invite Peshu to make his closing remarks. Will be followed by Alex, then Susan, and then Salome. Peshu.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gathigi, and the entire organizing team that made this happen. This was a very precise opportunity for us to bring to the fore some of the things that we had already spoken. My closing remarks will be this, that now this report reflects what is happening in our media houses. that Dr. Gadhigi is already doing quite a good job in extending the same to his classes, graduate classes, special topics, which is where some of us came in through. I wish the recommendations and the details of this report will be made, especially to those who are already into the practice, because it touches most of them, especially in what they are doing. I am sure most of my colleagues will really have a better opportunity. There'll be better versions of themselves once they go through the highlights of this report. Another key point is for those who are already in the training, those who are being trained at the level of a graduate or undergraduate level. I wish this will be incorporated into the training manual, so that, because once we have journalists who are equipped with the information that is in this report, then you can be sure that even as we look on the ways from maybe the policy point of view, from the government point of view, from the ownership of the media station point of view, a lot of work is done by the people, by the journalists themselves, who are the good key point to begin with, if this report was really to change the entire industry. Thank you very much, and have a blessed afternoon.
Thank you, William. Alex?
Thank you, Dr. Gasigi. You was asked, first of all, to contribute on how we can have this report disseminated with a particular context to the Ugandan media industry. I think my view is this report speaks directly to a very focus area for the media in terms of managing the present and creating the future. So we can disseminate by engaging the industry at two levels. I think the owners through their different associations, also the newsrooms can be engaged through engaging the Uganda Editors Guild. And then we can also engage the Uganda Media Sector Working Group, which is currently bringing a multiplicity of different people, different stakeholders together, the regulators, the industry, and other stakeholders like the Uganda Human Rights Commission and civil society. My closing remarks, I think, as a way forward, I think the industry needs to fraternize and see how to deal with the issues that are very well captured in this report, which are cross-cutting and threaten the viability and future of the media. In terms of one, regulation, there is a need to influence regulation by advocating for example, a voluntary regulatory mechanism in the industry in Uganda, and later on push for a framework that should replace the current arrangement, which is 100% state control. So there is a need for the industry to be challenged to organize itself at the different levels of media owners, stakeholders, and those in practice. And I can see some initiatives have already happened in Uganda, like the Media Sector Working Group and the Uganda Editors Guild, which then need to take these issues in this report on board. The security and welfare of journalists is a key issue, so there is a need for an industry approach of how to take care of this, and then enforcing standards across the media platforms will help, which is also an industry issue, which can also be an industry issue that then will help build more public confidence in the media platforms, such that the public looks at these platforms as her own. And so how can we deal with these challenges? such that the public now sees itself as the owners of these media platforms. I think that will be my final take on the findings of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Susan?
Okay, maybe I'll just start with a point William just mentioned on poor remuneration and brown envelopes. I think I'd just like to say that brown envelopes or just corruption in general is an ethical issue, is an ethical problem, not a remuneration problem, because we find that sometimes a journalist in the field, a reporter, will refuse to take a bribe, but the editor, probably a reporter on 20,000, will refuse to take that bribe. Then the editor, who is earning 10 times, let's say, more than the reporter, will take the bribe. So it's not really the remuneration. Yes, remuneration needs to be addressed. But I think emphasis on ethics, journalism, I mean, just ethics, personal, individual ethics is what we really need to emphasize and inculcate in journalists day in, day out. Then the question on policy on tech giants, I think I'll use something else happening in the industry to answer that question. Some situations when journalists are harassed in the field, they contact the media council. I've been roughed up, my camera has been broken, this and that. The media council advises the journalist to first file a complaint and get an OB. Then they do, and then the council takes it up. And, and full force, really trying to get justice for the journalist. Then the journalist has a sitting with, let's say, the politician. And then after a sitting or whatever meeting that happens, the journalist then is fine. That time probably the effort or the finances that have really gone into the media council to try address that situation have been extensive, but the journalist probably through 5,000 or less, just withdraws the case. So tech giants, yes, it is a problem. Yes, it is a concern. Yes, it's something that at a policy level has been taken seriously, and media houses have been called upon to address this issue. I think I'll leave it at that for now. But I just hope this is something that, from media houses themselves, we can actually feel that it's a burden, and if addressed collectively, is something that, we can benefit overall, just like what's happening in Australia. But until we get there, or probably until the media owners who are at different levels feel that this is a collective problem, then it might remain a problem. That said, I'd really like to thank sorry?
Yeah, continue.
Okay, I'd really like to thank Aga Khan for doing this research. Coming from a media background and media management background, it's really expensive to do research. It's something that with the other costs of running a media house, you find that you involuntarily put research as, etc. When finances allow, then you do the research. So you investing in the research, in the findings, and even how to disseminate the findings is very good. And I'd like to maybe request for you to create a database where you can share these findings directly to media houses, because sometimes if this information is received by editors directly, or by media owners directly, or media managers directly, I think it would also have quite some impact. So if probably that's an avenue you'd consider, that would also really be helpful. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Susan, for that, and also responding to the question in a crypted way. We are going to decode. Finally, dada yetu kutoka kwa mashemeji wangu, Salome.
Asante Shemeji. Thank you, Dr. Georgie, for this opportunity. First of all, I'd like to thank Aga Khan for this opportunity and the DW Academy for this opportunity. For me, it's a greater pleasure to participate in this panel as a media practitioner for about 19 years I've been in this industry. I have few remarks. Number one is this report should be used as a training tool for journalists. For instance, media organization, we are doing advocacy and training. So as a chairperson of a media institute of Southern Africa, we will use this report during our training to make sure that we disseminate it to the journalists, to the grassroots level. Also, we as a media practitioner, we should be the center to circulate this report. So this is also my recommendation. And two more is about professional solidarities. We need to come together as a professionals because we are surrounded by owners who have mascots, with politicians who has power and legal framework that is unfriendly to us. So without professional solidarity, we'll still crying. We need a collective responsibility to tackle this issue. And the last one is the well-being of journalists. This has been a problem in Tanzania for years. Since I started journalism to date, it's a big problem, low payment and unpaid for a journalist. So we need a collective responsibility to tackle this problem. Otherwise, we'll still complain years and years. So thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you so much, Salome. Before I take the mic back to Hesbon, I want to thank the DW team and the Innovation Center team. I've been involved in this work, I think now it's almost going to 2 years, and it's very exciting to see what started and what has come out. And I think even for me, just seeing more confidence as all of us are saying this work need to go beyond where it is, and just to see its practical application, not only in the journalistic practice, but also in the training. I think it's going to be huge. As many people have said, I think we have questions to think, how do we, for example, package it for journalists who are doing training? And I believe that we will have those answers. We've overshot our time, but for the right reasons. Back to you, Hesbon, to take this to the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gadigi. Thank you, everyone, especially our panelists and everyone who joined this discussion. I think we couldn't have been more spot on getting this team of panelists. The level at which you've engaged with the document is quite impressive, and we are glad that we are still going to engage with you for the next foreseeable future and see how we can pick on the takeaways that you've given us. I think for me the biggest thing has been the issue of dissemination and training, and what Susan has talked about. How do we just package findings from this research into training modules that target different stakeholders, be they editors, journalists, reporters, media managers, media owners, and just stakeholders that can be brought on board to benefit from the pathways created by these findings. Let me also say that there are so many emergent issues that have come up, and I don't think this is going to be the end of the discussion. We're still going to have follow-up discussions on this. This report was essentially part of a literature review for a major study that we are doing. So there is still enough data that you're going to churn out from the Innovation for Media Viability study that targets top management. There's one very interesting one that is already out. We just need to feed in the Ugandan and Tanzanian data on finding financial force that speaks directly, to financial sustainability and viability of media houses. From what we got from close to 166 media outlets in Kenya, close to 180 in Uganda, and I think in Tanzania, there are around 200 media outlets. And basically that gives us the data of the media viability, the financial situation of these media houses as talking points, for the way forward. And critical from the discussion has been the issue of how can these media outlets be independent, and then how can revenue be the basis for independence so that they detach themselves from the ownership interest and the commercial interest of owners. And there's a question that was raised by Augustine, and the bigger problem by tech companies, that giant tech companies that reap more from content that they don't produce. And I think I like what Susan says, that there is need for collegiality. If all media houses don't speak with one voice, then these tech companies would keep reaping more from these media houses. So thank you very much. Because our director couldn't get time to be with us, I think I will take this opportunity to invite my colleague from Tanzania, Caleb. I hope Tuli is added, my colleague from Tanzania, to give a vote of thanks and officially say that these reports have been launched and we are going to share them as widely as possible with all the institutions that would make good use of this report. Tuli.
I think she's joining.
He's muted.
Okay. So we have the Media Innovation Center both in Uganda and Tanzania. We have community managers. So if Tuli, our community manager in TZ, is not able to join, I will invite my CEO here in Kenya, Benson, to say the final words as we bring this to a close.
Yeah, Tuli is joining. Just a minute as well.
Okay. Yeah, you can see Tuli.
Hi, Hesbon.
Hi, Tuli. They need to see you.
Sure, let me figure out. Or maybe Caleb can assist. There is no option for me to switch on my camera. Oh, here we go.
Okay. Thank you, Tuli. Now we are giving you the honor of officially launching this and passing the vote of thanks.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Hesbon and the team and the panelists. Thank you so much for attending and making time to share your lessons and your views regarding our report. This was really amazing. I am actually speaking from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I also read the report and there are a lot actually I can say. Thank you so much for the team who prepared Hesbon and your team, for your panelists from across East Africa, but also to our attendees of today. I hope everyone will get more time after the session, maybe today. You didn't get time to read or to review our reports. Please make sure that you do so. And in case of anything, our team are very happy to hear from you. Asante sana na nawashukuru wote.
After the chief guest has spoken, there is nothing much to be added. Thank you to our attendees, to our panelists. We will keep this conversation and we'll be talking via the email. Thank you very much. Na Mungu awe nanyi.
Asante, thank you.
Asante,
Bye-bye.
Where all the citizens. Let's imagine a world where all the citizens could get unrestricted access to reliable information, where everyone could express their opinions freely, develop their potential, and participate in society. If this is the world we want, it will be hard to achieve it without quality journalism. Media outlets play a key role in a constructive public dialogue. They sort the facts, offer a platform for diverse opinions, and moderate the discussion. However, reality shows quality journalism is increasingly under threat. The internet has brought many more sources of information, making it hard to know who is reliable and difficult for quality journalism to be heard. This environment has also increased competition for audiences' attention, placing traditional business models under pressure. Meanwhile, the concentration of ownership in ever fewer hands and political or economic pressure to censor is eroding the independence of media outlets. But journalism isn't doomed. Media organizations can survive and flourish. This is where the concept of media viability can be very useful. It highlights 5 areas of intervention that can help media professionals develop strategies to address these challenges. First, economics. Creating new sources of income. This is a big challenge, but there are things that can be done. For example, finding new sources of revenue beyond advertising by providing skills-based training, organizing events, or raising money through donors and the local community. Second, technology. Yes, all the new apps and platforms can be difficult to keep up with. But with the right training and strategy, your staff can create new formats and new ways of storytelling that will in turn help build a stronger relationship with your audience. You could also partner with other media outlets to share development and training costs and create new content. Which brings us to our next category, which of course news organizations are nothing without. Understanding all the new formats and styles of media on the internet can be overwhelming. But doing so and finding out what exactly your audience likes will allow you to develop relevant content and formats, and perhaps in time increase your audience and revenue. In fact, audience is another area media viability focuses on. Ultimately, everything media professionals do is for their audience, but the challenge is to turn them into a community. By understanding their values and maintaining their trust, your community can be a valuable source of support, helping you find stories, raise money, and even protect you from political threats. Integrating user-generated content into the editorial strategy, for instance, could be a good start in engaging your viewers and listeners.